Okay, so my talk today will be on the arms industry. And the question is the arms industry a commercial determinant of health? I think it is, from what I've been reading. And that's the issue that I think we all need to be thinking about. How come we hear a lot about the tobacco industry, the alcohol industry, as Rachel was presenting, the ultra-processed food, but we hear very little about the arms industry as a commercial determinant of health. Oops. Okay. All right. Can you still see my screen? Yes.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Sorry.
All right. And so then the corporate capture of public health by the arms industry. Is the arms industry a commercial determinant of health? So I'll be referring to a few points about the commercial determinants of health that Rachel actually presented very quickly today, for us to use this as a guiding framework to think about the arms industry and its activities. Then I'll be using examples from all over the world about the impact of the arms industry as a commercial determinant, specifically focusing on the Middle East, our parts of the world where I live currently, talking a little bit about the arms trade and where it finds itself in the arms industry, a few words on ethics and implications for research. So very quickly, coming back to the commercial determinants of health framework, they're actually not just the products of the commercial actors, but also the systems, the practices, and the ways they interact to impact public health, the environment, and health equity. So they have sophisticated strategies that cut across all the industries, as research has shown with several industries, including those that Rachel talked about. And so the commercial determinants of health include not just the industries themselves, but a network of actors that are brought in to support their practices and services, including lawyers, public relations, personnel, marketing units, and etc. So the corporate playbook is actually the list of the strategies and the tactics that the commercial actors engage in. And these are just some that I brought up. And most of these will actually, I think, be played out by the arms industry. So the corporate playbook includes the arms industry or the other industries in general, commercial actors, being involved in revolving doors between governments, industry, relationships. So they are part of the advisory boards on the government. That's why they influence policy. They produce health-harming practices and products that are marketed to people in a way that they mold culture and the social norms in different countries around the world around their interests. They focus on individuals in low-income countries and convey themselves as part of the solution, not part of the problem. They harass whistleblowers that try to reveal their strategies and their tactics, and they fund research that actually supports their interests and so create fake science. And they also come together and partner with academia and other professional societies for them to whitewash their tarnished images. So these are just some of the strategies and the tactics. And today I'm going to talk about the arms industry. However, it's also called the war industry. And the war industry is actually the arms industry. That is a system that seeks to profit from creating opportunities and chances for war, and is always updating itself to improve or to maintain its capacity for war all over the world. Bill Wist actually, in a very interesting book about how public health can promote peace and prevent war, presents this very interesting complex web of causation and interrelated factors, where he portrays determinants of relationships between determinants and relationships between these determinants, and the outcomes of war based on his studies and insights. So as you can see today, we're going to talk about the war industry, and then you have the military that are very important factors in producing war and violent conflicts, whether inside a country or interstate. When we talk about the adverse impacts of commercial determinants, we think about just the product. But for the wars but for the commercial determinants of health that involve the arms industry, the arms industry involves itself in preparation for wars, waging wars, supporting wars, and we think about what's going to happen after wars. So in these three phases, armed conflicts have impact on public health. So of course, we know that there is significant death, disability, and injuries wherever wars happen around the world. And we have an aftermath where the public health system and the infrastructure are damaged, and that increases the risk of different kinds of disease spread. A lot of people around the world are currently and have been displaced internally inside the country, internally displaced populations, and also crossing the borders. And these are actually mostly these days in Africa and the Middle East. There are also intergenerational trauma, which is long-term effects after being exposed to different kinds of effects of experiencing wars that are handed down to generations and to children of parents that have been exposed to all of these, which manifest themselves in physical, mental disabilities. Also, there will be acute food security crisis, weaponization of food, different spread of different kinds of diseases, and of course, different kinds of non-communicable diseases such as cancers and congenital defects of the children. The recent war on Gaza that has taken its toll on the Palestinian population, that has been ongoing for a year and a month now, has left its scar on the population, on the infrastructure, including the schools, the educational facilities, and killed, injured thousands, hundreds and thousands of people. And hospitals also got a hit, and only very few of them are still partially functioning. In Lebanon, the results of the recent attack also on Lebanon by Israel has also led to a lot of internal displacement, has led to those people, the Lebanese, finding refuge in makeshift displacement sites such as schools, where most of them are now in full capacity. a lot of casualties, estimated by the Ministry of Public Health to be around 20,000. A lot of people dying, buildings destroyed by a total amount of around 10,000. So airstrikes to Beirut, the southern suburbs, and the Bekaa area in Lebanon. In Lebanon, we also had several military interventions, and one of them that was led by Israel, that actually was in 2006, left behind it a lot of cluster bombs that were attended to by the Lebanese army. But as you can see on the right-hand side, there are still a lot that remain there in the southern borders. The environmental impacts also are huge for wars. In addition to the pollutants in the war zones itself, including the heavy metals. There are a lot of environmental impacts also as weapons are upgraded and tested during military training in preparation for war. Also, you have a lot of greenhouse gases and pollution that are released and that are irreversible. And of course, environmental degradation from the use of weapons of mass destruction, illegal weaponry, radioactive weapons, and of course then contamination of the water and the breakdown of environmental systems because of the war. Landmines and explosives, post-war reconstruction also takes its toll. And you can, and this is interesting, I found that post-war reconstruction, for example, in Gaza, is estimated to require 46 to 60 million tons of carbon dioxide. That is a large amount, exceeding the annual emission of over 135 countries, just to rebuild Gaza that was torn down from the recent war. So heavy environmental impacts in addition to public health impacts of war. And this is an interesting photo that I found of graveyards of tanks that have been left in Germany and the Soviet and the USSR. Okay, so when we talk about firearms, it's different from arms. So my discussion today is about arms and the arms industry and the defense industry. So this is basically an international enterprise that focuses on research and development, creates demand for its product, servicing the military, and entails several companies that create different kinds of conventional arms, such as those that are seen on the right, for the military, and also for non-state actors, such as the private military contractors. This is different from the firearms. The firearms are weapons that individuals can easily carry with them and have projectiles that are expelled through a barrel, from an explosive gas or powder, and this includes pistols, shotguns, rifles. Now, why am I looking at the difference between the arms and firearms? Because when you look at the literature, there is very little work being done on the arms industry as arms. Public health research is actually focusing more on firearms, but the firearms industry, injuries. And this is specifically a lot in the United States. And this was because I found that there is very little funding for research. Recently, in 96 and 2011, the US Center for Disease Control and Prevention actually prohibited or stopped funding for research on the topic. This was influenced by the firearms industry lobbying. And I was told recently that it resumed small amounts of funding for this. However, the arms industry has not been studied to that extent and has been kept out of the public sphere. And of course, then if it's not studied, not understood, there's very little to be done to prevent its activities and to promote peace through public health advocacy. There are, it's interesting to see that there are many watchdogs and organizations that talk about the industry. However, many of them are in the global north. And so, for example, the UK-based Campaign Against Arms Trade has a very interesting website and a lot of information there for people who are interested. Describes the arm industry as supporting human rights violations through supporting the regimes and wastes essential resources. So the arms industry is implicated in violation of human rights, operating in full endorsement of governments all over the world, has close relationships with the governments, and has revolving doors between the industry and then has relationships, the industry has relationships between the government, the military, and then this creates a conflict of interest. So the arms trade is what is used to get these arms across from the manufacturing corporations, manufacturing countries to the rest of the world. And this has, the arms trade has increased globally, reaching $2 trillion in 2023, more than than is spent on these the SDGs. And this is used by the military globally to support and instigate and fuel wars. There's a high demand of arms in our parts of the world, in Asia and Middle East, and which are the main arms importers. And there are several players involved that include the government instruments and several other players. What's interesting is that there is an arms trade treaty, a UN binding agreement that makes state parties responsible for implementing these obligations and prohibits transfer or export of arms when the party or the state party has knowledge that when they are going to export, that these arms will be used for war crimes. It prohibits selling these. However, this has yet to be applied. So as you can see, the arms industry is making, that are making the most profit are the industries in the United States, the United Kingdom, and China, descending order. In the Middle East, which includes 22 countries, are vary in terms of human development, economic development. Some are industrialized, high-income countries. Others are low-income countries. There's a history of wars, social fragmentation, and protracted crises, Recently, of course, is the occupied Palestinian territories that has been in protracted crisis ever since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. And so all of these crises have impacted people's livelihoods and stability, and have caused massive forced migration inside the countries, but also outside the countries. So increased militarization is something that you see all around the countries of the Middle East, where 5 of the 10 have the highest level of militarization, including in a descending order, Israel, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia, where Israel spent about $22 billion on military expenditure. And there has been recently a significant military aid to Israel from the United States, over 17.9 billion in aid, which has yet to also continue, including tanks, artillery shells, mortar cartridges, F-15 jets, and onwards. What are thinking about the arms industry raises some ethical issues, and I'm nearly done here. The ethical issues that are raised by just thinking and reading about the arms industry is that arms sales are exported to continue or to fuel or to start wars that have high human, that impact human lives. And that also might fuel or support conflicts in countries where there is questionable disregard for human rights. They're actually, so then the supply is driven by financial gain. And here you have on the left an example of an exhibition where a lot of arms industries, corporations come together to market their products. And here this is, for example, in Nigeria, which is a country, a low-income country of the world, which is also struggling with poverty and different kinds of societal issues. Arms dealers here in the middle actually have benefited from the war in Gaza and wars all over the world, because they prioritize profit over public health. Then there's also the conflict of interest, where the industries partner with academia and society to improve their image. Other ethical issues include now questions about the emerging disruptive technologies that are being used for so-called defense. And these are actually used now currently in Lebanon and in Palestine. The drones, artificial intelligence, and the cyberspace hacks that were conducted on people's beepers in Lebanon that led to a lot of civilians being injured and killed. Also, the usual lethal force against protesters, and this is one example in Lebanon and, of course, in Sudan, that were protesting unarmed. This is an example of Saudi Arabia buying billions of dollars worth of arms from the UK and the US. And Saudi Arabia has been implicated in the war and atrocities in Yemen. Also, questionable is the economic gain and the profit that you can see here in collaboration with other industries. For example, the fuel industry, fossil fuel industry in Iraq. This is my last slide, which draws our attention to, based on all of these ideas, how is the arms industry, where is its position vis-a-vis these sustainable development goals? Well, if we go through them very quickly, we will see that the arms industry, its products, its activities, its lobbying, its impact has actually deterred the achievement of, or has challenged the achievement of many of these sustainable development goals. And if we look into each and every one of them, there are probably, there's something written about each one. Definitely, we've just talked about hindering the achievement of SDG 3, SDG 11, 15, 13, and in itself, of course, the arms industry has violated these partnerships for the goals, where it has actually established partnerships for its own goals and its own welfare. So it tells us that we need to do some more research about the arms industry, on the strategies and the tactics that it involves itself in, the roles of different players and other industries in the whole operations, and how it interacts with other parties that have vested interest in increasing arms sales around the world, including the private military contractors. There needs to be decentralization of research in different regions of the world to explore the nature and the scale of influence of the arms industry and its impact on public health. More needs to be done on the partnerships of academia and the impact of the arms industry in supporting academic research. And of course, there are other suggestions that one can put for research, but I just wanted to just say a few words there. All of this work was actually inspired by our lived experiences here in Lebanon, in the Middle East, over years and years and years. That has been affected by the arms industry use in different kinds of armed conflicts and wars. A lot of this has been taken from a paper that is just being in the final stages of its preparation. And I wanted to thank everybody and thank two of my graduate assistants who are here with us today that helped me in preparation of some of the slides. Thank you.